All right, guys. Hey, this is Tim Vixay here with my crippled friend. This is episode number 5, and I'm sitting with Kevin Pannell. He's a U.S. Army veteran, a double-leg amputee, just all-around badass, man. How you been?
I've been good, man.
Good. It's been a while. We first met in at the Winter Sports Clinic in 2011, the same year that I met Noah.
Right. Yep.
Have you been back to the Winter Sports Clinic since?
I went the next year, and then that was no. I went 2010, 2011. I haven't been back.
Oh, so that was your last one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my first and only one.
Yeah.
But you've been snowboarding since then, right?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah. You just locally around here. Kevin's actually from Sandy, Oregon. You grew up around here too, right?
No, I'm from Arkansas originally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, way down in the southwest corner. I'm almost a Cajun.
You don't have an accent at all.
That's what everybody tells me. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I moved around after I joined the Army. You know, I moved around, and then after I got hurt, I lived on the East Coast in D.C. for a few years, and so I think I've just from all being around all the different dialects, I've dropped it a little bit.
Yeah. How'd you end up in Oregon?
So I went to I started kayaking and rafting.
Yeah.
And I got hooked up with an East Coast nonprofit called Team River Runner, and then we ended up to make a long story long, I guess, we ended up going down to Costa Rica on a trip, and the two guys that led the trip to Costa Rica we're from here. We're from Portland and Gresham.
Yeah.
And they invited me up for the Clackamas Whitewater Festival.
Is his name Val?
Val Shaw, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was wondering. Okay, so I know Team River Runner. I did a kayaking event with them up in the
yeah, they're
the
still active in the area too.
Yeah, this was just right up the road in the Upper Clackamas. Pretty much like right between you and I.
Yeah, that was my introduction to whitewater in Oregon, was the Upper Clackamas River.
Yeah. You just kind of fell in love with the area.
With the whole they took me around everywhere, up to Leavenworth and all out, like all these local spots in the gorge, and I flew back home I flew back home after that, and then about a month later I rented a 14-foot U-Haul trailer, sold everything of mine that wouldn't fit in that, and then this is where I've been.
That's
since 2008. I got here on my 30th birthday.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about that I'm afraid with Oregon is like people come visit in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, I had a little forewarning. I was here for the first time on a fishing trip with the Windy Warrior Project on the Rogue River. We spent 5 days, I think, on the Rogue, and it was beautiful. It was like late September though, so it was a little cold and starting to get some of the rain.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things to do in the summer. I don't think there's a better spot, especially if you're like an outdoorsman.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even if you want just that perfect kind of. You know, you don't have to deal with the humidity like you do down south.
And I even loved the winter too, for a while. You know, like the only problem is the winter drags on here. But
I never did mind it, especially because this last winter I was out in Rockford, Illinois.
Right.
You know, pretty much from February to April, and it was like just a couple months of winter. I was just like, wait, people deal with this all the time.
Brutal cold and nothing to do, right?
Yeah, and you just gotta shovel your driveway. It sucks doing it in a wheelchair. I can't even imagine what it's like walking around on ice with prosthetics.
It's a challenge for sure.
So you got involved with kayaking. Was that kind of your introduction to adaptive sports? And
sorta. So in 2000, I got injured in 2004, and so doing my rehab, I was at Walter Reed for over a year. You know, going through all my med boards and all that stuff. And in 2004, 2005, if you had ever wanted to start a nonprofit, there was a waiting pool of newly injured vets, and so it's right there conglomerated in one area. So all these nonprofits were starting up. I mean, we were getting opportunities left and right to go fish and learn to sail and learn to play basketball and all this different stuff, you know. And I did a lot of that. I did some of the like the push cycle events, or not the push cycle,
The hand cycle.
the hand cycle, yeah. Some of the marathons and the rides and things, and I tried out a lot of different stuff, but the whitewater is probably the first thing that sort of stuck with me.
Yeah. Let's go back, because you do have the honor of being the first combat wounded veteran to come on the show. Yeah, I've had let's see if this is episode 5. I've had 4 veterans, but we were all hurt like stateside,
Right.
like myself. But you were injured in 2004 in Baghdad.
Yes, sir.
We just briefly
Yeah.
kind of
Yes.
go over that moment of your life.
Yeah.
Bring it up again.
No. I have no issue with it whatsoever. It's fine. So that particular day, we were actually pulling security for a PSYOPs patrol that was working in our area. We'd been out for a long time on foot, and they're doing their thing, and they use us for security because they want to appear non-threatening. So they usually sling their weapons and take their helmets off and all this. And so PSYOPs patrols are generally pretty easy. The mood's generally pretty good, and it had been all day, but we'd been out in the area for about 5 or 6 hours, and we were probably getting a little complacent by that time. And when we were walking back to our patrol base, I'm not sure exactly what spurred him to want to check something out, but my lieutenant saw something in this alleyway that he wanted to check out. And so we had gotten about, 20, 30 steps. I was at the rear of the patrol, and I got about 20 or 30 steps in this alleyway, and I heard these. If you ever have been around grenades, and we got hit by a lot by grenades, but there's an audible noise that happens when the spring pushes the spoon off of it. It's very metallic. You know what it is.
It's kind of like the distinction of like AK-47.
Yeah.
Like
It's
PKM,
like on the movies when the M1 Garand spits its clip out when it runs out of ammo.
Yeah, it has that ping.
Right. And so I heard this behind me, which was not a big surprise since we got hit practically every day by grenades. But I looked back, and there were 2 guys at the end of the alleyway, and those were the guys that hit me. And but I did not see. They were close enough that the one guy had on a black FUBU shirt, and I could see the FUBU logo on his chest. Yeah. And they threw 3 grenades at us. The first one is the only one I saw, and I heard it whirling over my shoulder, and I could see it. It didn't hit me, but then the next 2 were kind of aimed at me, or at least in my general area, and they went off sort of right up under my feet.
Yeah. Did you lose consciousness?
I was awake the entire time. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
What was that sensation like? Because no one gets to really experience that and live to tell the story.
It wasn't painful like you would think it would be. I mean, my legs weren't gone completely. They were mangled.
Yeah.
But I was able to stand up. Like I still, there were enough there that I could stand, because it's your just natural instinct.
And you're just fucking probably just loaded with adrenaline.
Oh yeah, totally.
All these endorphins just going off in you.
And so the first thing I thought was to stand up and check my fingers and toes, right? So I'm moving them, and it didn't feel right. And I looked down, and I could see it. It's just like, I remember thinking it was nothing like the movies, because there was no like spurting. It looked like someone had put a water hose filled with blood down the front of my shirt, and I'm just dumping out onto the ground. I mean, the way they hit, I had both my femoral arteries severed, and my brachial in my armpit was severed. So I'm just pouring blood out.
Yeah.
And that was a little shocking. And I look across, and there's my buddy had dove into a storefront, and he was just kind of coming back out. And I started talking to him about, I started yelling at him, because you're supposed to yell medic, but he was the first person that I saw,
Yeah.
And I took a few steps towards him because he is, I know I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear my own voice. I couldn't hear anything but that ring, in my ears at the time. It was like the volume on the world had been turned down except for this ringing in my ears.
Yeah, it's kind of like that opening scene in Saving Private Ryan.
If you've ever, that's exactly how I tell people. There's a scene in Saving Private Ryan where a guy's in a building and they shoot a rocket into the building, and then it shows from his perspective, sort of stumbling back out of the building.
Yeah,
and I said someone who had been in that situation had to have advised for that scene, because that's exactly what it was like,
I think they had a lot of good advisors, because it seemed like they nailed kind of not just, I mean, the violence of war, but the camaraderie,
right?
Like the brotherhood that you build, and kind of the dialogue and the shit talking. I actually really liked the dialogue that they had.
It was great. I tell you, another series that really nails that is Generation Kill. I don't know if you've seen Generation Kill, but that is, I've never seen anything that's more accurate to the sociology that happens inside a unit,
And then what's really cool about Generation Kill is you get to see the interactions with like junior NCOs and their senior NCOs, and then everyone and their officers,
all the way up the line,
and the officers with the other officers and the senior officers. It was actually a really well done miniseries.
I thought it was great, and and I know those guys were Force Recon Marines, but it was just watching that from the perspective of just being an infantryman in the Army. I was like, okay, there's this guy, there's this guy. I mean, I could identify with everyone in that unit from someone within my own unit, Has
Noah told you the story of his little
his radio? Cameo? He's on the credits at the end. I think he's got his radio transmissions on there, right?
Oh, I don't know if they actually used
that's what I know that they recreated a lot of that, but I thought, I could be wrong, but I thought he told me they used some actual audio of him.
Dude, this is going to sound crazy, but the end credits of every episode of that series is they always play like radio transmissions.
Right.
Dude, for a while there, I would just actually listen to that as I fall asleep.
Yeah, dude.
It was kind of like my bedtime music.
Oh, it's comforting. I mean, it's something
it's just something weird. I don't know why. Because I'm one of those guys. I don't really have like really bad tinnitus, but I like to put on some background music or noise, or usually now it's been stand-up comedy. Or even just podcasts.
I used to fall asleep. I don't really use anything anymore, but I used to fall asleep to sociology lessons or lectures that I would stream from like Stanford University or whatever. They're all on YouTube.
Wow!
And because sociology is kind of a thing that I sort of geek out about. So.
Did you after you got back, did you use your GI Bill for anything?
I did, sort of wastefully.
You probably just explored different things.
I did, yeah. I was an English major for a while because I like to write, and I did. I never got out of like community college, but yeah, I wasted it for a little while.
Hey, I think one of the cool things about the GI Bill is it's there for you to use,
right?
And there's a lot of guys that just don't even fuck with it, and I feel like dude, just go to the community college and just take a few classes. I mean, I was in community college pretty much from the time that I got home, just working on my like transfer degree, and then thinking, at the time I thought I was going to be a history major. I wanted to be like a history teacher. And kind of got it like around some kids, and I was like, all right, like, I was pretty bad in high school, but now kids these days with the social media and how many distractions they have, like being a teacher is just too much of a challenge. And then, I fucked around with like psychology for a little bit and thought I was going to be a sports psychologist, and actually took some online classes at Oregon State for psychology, but then I realized, to become a sports psychologist, you need to be pretty much a doctor. And I was like, I'm not going to go to school for that long. Then, took a couple years off, went back and started doing a writing program and actually was really interested in doing the writing. But then this podcast idea came along, and so I'm like a 5-time college dropout. And I got maybe a year and a half left on my GI Bill. I might use it to go back and do some like sound engineering.
Yeah, I think mine has expired at this point. I got out
like 15
in
years.
2005. Yeah.
You might have one more year just to crank out a fun class. That you
right.
Do.
Yeah.
Who
yeah.
knows?
Basket weaving or something, right?
Hey, if that's something you've always been interested in doing, I'm sure it could be a handy skill, man.
I would actually, if I did have any left and they would accept it. There's a place down in Northern California called College of the Redwoods, and they do a woodwork, and they do like a 9-month intensive woodworking program that I think would be really fun to go to.
Dude, I could see you doing something like that.
No, that would be fun.
Yeah, and just have like a wood shop and just.
I mean, that's what I do now, just as a hobby at the house, and but to learn some of the stuff that's harder to learn on your own, some of the more difficult joinery and different things.
Have you always been kind of a hands-on guy?
Sorta, yeah. Woodworking has been something I've only gotten into since I've been hurt, though. And
did you join the Army right out of high school?
Oh yeah, I joined the Army in high school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was in between my junior and senior year with the split up program. I don't even know that they offer a split up program anymore.
Is that when you go to boot camp, like you're like the summer
between your junior and senior year? Yeah.
Did you get to stand in front of your school at like an assembly and in uniform?
No, they didn't do that. But I was. I went to a tiny little high school in a tiny town in Arkansas, and everyone knew, because back then they were still allowing recruiters to come in and take you out of class and different things.
We had. I remember we had 2 kids that did that program, and at the time, I wasn't. I had known about the military, and it wasn't. I didn't really look at it like a big option.
Right.
And it wasn't until like halfway through my senior year that I realized that like this is probably what I'm going to do, and ended up waiting like another year even after I graduated. But it just, it was one of those things that we were at war with 2 different, well, we were fighting 2 different wars. I don't know how many countries we ended up fighting.
Right.
Once you consider all the insurgents.
But, God, yeah, and then Africa and
what? So was this was pre 9/11, right? Or was
I got in '96. I went to MEPS and did all that in '96, and that was just about it. I was what they call I believe a Rep 63 or something, and so. I was sworn in at first, and I was going like once a month down to the National Guard Armory, and we didn't have uniforms or anything. We'd just go down there in civilian clothes.
So what were your thoughts when 9/11 happened? You knew that war was kind of.
I was ready. I was ready. I was like 9/11. I was like every other sort of young red-blooded American then, like, oh, let's go,
Yeah,
and then,
well, because at that point you'd already been in for 5 years. Right. And then being in the infantry, you're just like, God, just give us someone to fuck up.
And then we didn't even start our train up until 2003, and so by that point, I had a little bit of time to reflect, and I was like, oh, boy, this is about to be real, and but I was still ready to go. There was no point where I thought, is there a way out of this? Because I knew that this was going to be something that became a chapter in history, and I wanted to be a part of it, one way or another. I didn't have a lot of political leanings at that point. I was just.
That's exactly how I felt. It was like, okay, we're involved with 2 wars, and we're sending, people over, and like, what am I going to tell my grandkids when they ask me, like, what did you do, during Iraq and during Afghanistan and during the global war on terror? And I wasn't going to tell them, like, well, I was a Caterpillar mechanic in Oregon.
Right. Yeah.
So I wanted to,
and we had some guys from our unit who actually either their ETSs were coming up before they started stop loss, and they got out or they found other ways to get out, and I always thought, man, how can I look myself in the mirror for the rest of my life if I send these dudes over there without me,
Yeah.
And something happened.
Well,
which did happen, and
were you were coming up on were you already?
I was close to ETS, but I wasn't at a risk to get stop lost at that time.
So, but you were already on your second enlistment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. At that point, did you know like that you were gonna re-enlist and see this thing through?
Yeah. And I'd honestly, like, up until 9/11, I'd just sort of been dicking around. Like I wasn't. We'd had years and years and years of peacetime. I wasn't really taking the military that seriously. It was fun, and I was having fun with it, but I wasn't thinking.
Where were you stationed
career
at?
Paths or anything like that. We went out of Fort Hood, down in Texas.
And was 04 your first deployment overseas?
First and only, not overseas. I spent 99 and 2000 in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, and but my first combat deployment, was 2004.
So so then since then you got involved with you said Team River Runner and kayaking, and now you're involved with Valhalla Dive Group, which is should have done a little bit more research on it, but you want to tell me a little bit about that?
So the Valhalla Dive Group, we essentially certify new divers. We use a pool of veterans, injured veterans, and then firefighters, law enforcement, for all first responders that were injured in line of duty also qualify for us as well. And then we have by the mission statement, they have to be 50% or more disabled through the a disability rating. So to sort of include the rest of the people and family members and things in that, we've started a dive club on the side that'll also sort of incorporate for as little cost as possible.
That sounds like a good like business model or foundation model is.
I mean it's and I'm really excited about where, we the first couple of years were a little bit of growing pains, but what year did Valhalla start? What year are we in now? 2017 was our first trip down to Bonaire.
Oh, right on. And you just got back from Bonaire, right?
I did, yeah. This is my third time. So.
Yeah, how was that? Because I'm going in June.
I love the place, man.
Yeah.
You were there last year, right?
No, I went to I just got certified last year, and we went to Cozumel.
Oh, okay, yeah,
which was also incredible. I don't know if you've been there yet.
I haven't been to Cozumel yet. I went to Fiji a couple of months ago. Fiji's awesome.
Oh, I bet.
Fiji is a terrible place for anyone with a disability. But the diving in the country is fantastic. So do you know where you're going at Bonaire?
No, I mean, isn't the island
Well, it's tiny, but there are different resorts and things there.
I forget the name of the resort we're staying at, but it's through Life Waters.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a bunch of Oscar Mike guys going.
Oh, nice.
Kind of starting to develop like a dive program.
That's what Noah was telling me about, yeah.
So we want to just kind of explore a little more options, and I'd be lying if I said I wish we could get more funding from Oscar Mike, because right now it's just been kind of out of pocket. But who knows? Maybe we can collaborate and figure this thing out. But
right.
You were also while you were in Bonaire, you had like appendicitis.
I did. Yeah.
They had to yank that thing.
Yeah. Actually, on I only got about 15 dives this time, which I was pretty bummed about because I was kind of on track for a 30+ dive week.
Dude, you're just leaving body parts all over.
This was honestly, dude, this was my third foreign country where I've had an emergency surgery where something was removed and left there. Yeah, so I mean, the other two were Iraq and Germany, you know, on the way back.
Yeah,
but yeah, so it's kind of funny. And then I went to Haiti and got the dermal anthrax or something. I have a sample on file with the CDC right now.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Luckily, it was just the non-weaponized form that you get from the livestock, but I had to have it biopsied and the whole nine. So if there's a weird thing in a weird place, I can usually get that.
Yeah, or you know, just next time you go diving, you just gonna have to get like your wisdom teeth pulled.
That's what we're trying to figure out. Yeah,
get a finger amputated or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
What got you into scuba diving?
The Valhalla. That was my. It was the first time that I'd ever taken it sort of seriously because it's a little. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a little pricey. A little.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially
there's a word there that's not coming to me right now.
Most of the dive destinations that you want to go to are all these tropical places.
Yeah, and they're down in the Caribbean or wherever, you know, and then you piece and parcel all that out too. But you have to pay for the boats and the air and the, you know, this and that. So, and then just your equipment in itself isn't, you know, you don't want to buy cheap because your life literally depends on it. So.
Right. So Bonaire 2017 was your first time
That was
diving?
my first. That was where I got certified.
Yeah. What was that feeling like getting under the water for the first time?
It was cool, man. I was a little nervous. I didn't know how it would be, and it was just I've got almost 100 dives in now in the last two years, a little over 2 years, you know, which is a lot for a short, you know, the amount of
What other certifications do you have?
I should have my dive master at the end. We're going back to Bonaire in September, and at the end of that, I was on track to get my dive master on this trip, and actually, I've got three more certifications to do. I was going to do one of them the morning that my appendicitis happened. Yeah. And then the other one down there, and then I just had to do a rescue course back here.
Okay.
So right now I'm an advanced open water diver. I'll be taking the rescue diver course at Yell Lake here at the end of next month.
Is this through Patty or?
No, we're SDI.
SDI?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Patty, Patty's good. Patty's more recreational, I would say, and I kind of want to transition into technical diving later on, and SDI actually is partnered with TDI, which is the Technical Diving Institute.
Yeah, I'm certified through SDI.
Oh, there you go.
I don't really know the biggest difference between the two of them, but I know SDI
Patty's all over the world is the main thing.
That's what I've noticed.
They'll both take your money. So
yeah,
exactly.
It's I noticed that like SDI, they have a specific course for disabled divers, and then even the buddy divers that go with
September. Actually, we're going down to teach that course to the scuba-ability or whatever it is.
Scuba buddies. Buddy course.
Right, whatever it's called. Yeah. But I've helped to teach that course a couple of times here. Because our founder is an instructor, and she teaches the course. Yeah. And then I've done the classroom portions here, helped teach those. Just from I'm not an instructor, but just from the perspective of being a adaptive diver.
Do you have a local dive shop that you work with?
Yeah, Adventure Sports in Gresham. It's down.
Are they kind of off like 84-ish?
Yeah, they're real close. They're in
kind of like in a business park.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. I went down there because I bought all my equipment online.
Right.
Like on Leisure Pro or I haven't been on that website in a while. It's dangerous. It's dangerous every time I go on like a scuba diving website.
God.
I end up like, oh wow, that'd be cool to have. That'd be cool to have.
Yep.
Ooh, I don't have that flashlight.
It can be so geeky too, dude.
Yeah.
It's like golf, you know. I mean, there's so many gadgets and things.
Yeah, different knives and different flashlights and damn, I forgot where I was gonna go with that.
Adventure sports. You said that you had gone down there.
Yeah, they assembled my regulator set.
Okay, yeah.
And since then, I bought my own equipment because I was gonna go to Australia to dive in the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah, the reef. Yeah.
Yeah, and man, it was a little bit disappointing.
Was it?
Yeah, just because it's all bleached out.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
When we went to Cozumel, there was just all sorts of wildlife. And
that's what you're going to see. When you go to Bonaire, the whole island is a marine preserve.
Yeah.
It has probably, at this point, some of the healthiest coral on the planet. It's
great.
It's a vibrant reef.
Right on. Did you get to see any sharks?
So not in Bonaire. Sharks are very rare there. So there's not where you'll dive at. There's very little current. Yeah. And sharks like the current.
Okay.
That's how they hunt and things. But in Fiji, we did 4 or 5 shark dives. We're like legit shark dives. Like we had this pregnant 15-foot tiger shark that was literally brushing us out of the way to swim by us.
That's so awesome.
It was sick. It was really, really cool.
I've been wanting to set up a proper shark dive.
Oh yeah. That one I recommend. I recommend going to Fiji, of course, but that shark dive was just unbelievable. And it was really funny because we did it the last day, and we were going out on a night dive the night before that, and one of my swim ankles broke, and and so the next day I did the 2 shark dives with no legs on. I mean, I learned to dive with no legs on. I dive with legs and fins now, but
do you have a special prosthetic that you use just for diving?
Just they're the same prosthetics. I just bolt these. I have ankles that tilt to 70 degrees.
Yeah, just allows me for the fins.
Yeah, and but so one of those had broken, and so I did the shark dives with no legs on, and there were 2 groups of people down there, and the dive masters from the other group of people were just freaking out whenever I came down. I was coming up from the shark dive and I had no legs.
It was just like, what?
Yeah, and my dive masters were just like screwing with them, like telling them that the sharks had eaten them. And like, it was pretty funny. But
do you have any interest in doing some like cave diving?
Yes, no, cavern diving for sure, and the what do they call them? The cenotes. Yeah. I want to go into the cenotes. I want to go, in particular, into the ones that have freshwater and saltwater, where it looks like a little lake underneath.
Oh
yeah. I don't. I always said no to cave diving, and I still wouldn't want to be too cramped. I don't want to be anywhere I have to take my gear off and push it ahead of me. Like that's too much. But yes, I would love to get into a little bit of cave and more open cave diving.
Yeah, I've seen some really cool documentaries about cave diving.
Yeah,
I was like, man, I gotta find a way to do it. But then I was thinking like,
well, the cave divers use scooters, man. So as long as you can hold on, you should be good. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking like, man, like all these amputees that I know like would be perfect because they'd be able to squeeze into tighter places and not have to worry about like, their fins kicking up silt.
Right. Yeah.
You'd be able to turn around, if you get into a tight spot, you'd be able to turn around a little bit easier.
Oh yeah.
But
that's I kind of laugh, but you could be onto something with the cave diving. That may be something that would be more feasible without the legs, because they want perfect buoyancy and as little effort as they can. So they tend to use scooters and stuff a lot. So so it might be better.
Have you used a scooter before?
I have not. No.
What about a rebreather?
I have. That's your first initial step into technical diving.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm working up towards now. I definitely want to use a rebreather. They're they're a little scary because rebreathers can kill you if you're not careful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I want to get into. And going on deeper, there's some wrecks that are down like 250, 300 feet. I want to be able to get down to those. You know,
have you done any wreck diving?
I've done wrecks. Yeah. You'll do a wreck. There's a great beginner wreck down in Bonaire called the Helma Hooker.
We did one in Cozumel.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It was an old. Like Navy minesweeper that we had, the U.S. had sold to Mexico, and then they, after they were done with it, they decommissioned it and sunk it and made an artificial reef. And
the Helma Hooker that you'll dive on down in Bonaire it's only sitting at about 90 feet, so it's a pretty easy dive.
Yeah.
And, but it was, I forget, maybe Chilean. I could be wrong about that, but it was. They found it with like 250,000 pounds of coke and weed and everything on it. And so the Dutch government, the Dutch Navy, sunk it over the reef on purpose so it could be on a dive spot. Unfortunately, they took all the drugs off.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder what the effects of a bunch of cocaine and fish would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially like sharks or like octopus.
Yeah.
Just tweaked out. Coked up octopus. They probably just wouldn't. They just wouldn't shut up.
But they probably
be talking up a storm and having fucking having discos and dance parties,
figuring out all the world's problems. Yeah.
Did you get to dive any wrecks down in Fiji?
Yeah, we did one. It was a pretty shallow. It's I don't know. I think the top of it was sitting in like 40 or 60 feet or so. But it was a cool wreck.
Yeah, I want to get out to what is it, Chuck Lagoon?
Mm-hmm.
I forget where, but it's somewhere I think in the South Pacific. But it's like the highest concentration of wrecks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, I mean, the U.S. at some point during World War II just went in and just fucked up an entire Japanese fleet.
I want to do the there are apparently planes scattered all over the Caribbean too. I'd love to dive some of those planes. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
North Carolina is supposed to have some really good wrecks too.
Like we're like Civil War era.
I think maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think some of them are World War II era. Though.
Yeah.
And I know sunken submarines and things
I know
like
there's
that.
a bunch of wrecks like in the Great Lakes.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't done any cold water dives.
Yeah.
Have you?
Well, no. Actually, I do my first one coming up at Yell Lake at the end of next month.
Where's Yellow Lake?
Yell, like the college, Yell Lake.
Oh, okay.
It's up. It's a tributary for the Lewis River. So it's up by like Lake Merwin.
Yeah,
the
just
area.
South Washington.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's pretty clear and it gets pretty warm, which is nice for this area.
Yeah.
You know. And then there's apparently a wall. It's just like 20 feet, and halfway through the lake, there's a wall that drops down to like 200 feet. There's supposed to be all these old, like ancient tree trunks and stuff coming out of this wall.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be pretty creepy.
There was a place like that in Cozumel, and it was cool. I just went out to the edge with my buddy Chris, and we just kind of sat on the edge, and it was like sitting on the edge of the world, because I mean you look out and it's just like a dark blue, and then it fades to black, and you're just like, yeah, man, dude, there's an entire fucking world down here that we don't even know anything about, and we don't know what's down there, what kind of creatures are there, and it's just like,
well, that's the thing with the ocean, man. I mean, you know, we know more about outer space. You know, I think we're still sitting at around 3% of the depths have ever been explored in the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know. They're like New Zealand a couple of years ago. They found a new whale species washed up on the beach. Yeah. There's a breeding population of the biggest mammals on Earth that we have never seen up until the late 2000s. You know,
well,
I mean, God knows what's under there.
And then imagine like the civilizations. You know, everyone knows and talks about like Atlantis, and they found it was on one of the Joe Rogan podcasts, I think maybe with Graham Hancock, but they were talking about this building structure that they had found, I think off the coast of like one of the Japanese islands.
Right.
And I mean, it was just like clear paths and like straight like cut concrete.
Yeah.
And it was just like, how was this developed? And it was like, I want to say only like less than 100 feet below the surface.
There's one. I know that
maybe it's more. I don't fucking know
somewhere off the coast of Japan. There's like a man-made pyramid that you can dive on. To this day.
Maybe we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's like no one knows, like,
right?
Because if you think about it, you know, with the ice age, like all that ice had to come from somewhere, and it was ocean water. So like our coastline, you know, 10,000 years ago probably looks a lot different than it does now. So.
Oh, I would imagine. I mean, you know, you're finding fossilized fish species in Illinois. You know, I mean, like it's just.
Do you ever watch, or have you watched Blue Planet with like David Attenborough? Did you watch the second one?
Yeah, Blue Planet. Yeah, we did. We watched Blue Planet 2.
Yeah, when they get under like the Arctic ice and they're finding life, and you're just like, dude, I'm convinced that like any planet that has water, I think if you look deep enough, there's gonna be
there almost has to be
form of like carbon-based life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's you know, I'm only a year into it, but I think if I would have discovered scuba diving earlier, I probably would have just said to hell with rugby. Let's go scuba diving.
It's my new mission in life. I love it so much.
Well, just man, the freedom of like the water. You know, when
I was gonna ask you about that. So we trained a quad. You know Jeff DeLeon?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we certified Jeff down in Bon Air last year. Yeah. And we were having a little bit of an issue at first with him. With his tremors, but we ended up tying his legs up.
Yeah.
Kind of behind him. But then when he would go face down, he couldn't breathe. Did you find any of those same issues?
Yeah. When my head is below, it's just, I think it's because of our impacted diaphragm.
Right.
And that's weird because Jeff is I think he's a
He's a para. Yeah.
He's a para. He's a low T.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I'm like a mid quad. But yeah, when my head's below my feet, it gets a little bit hard breathing. You just have to take short breaths.
Right.
And then upright yourself. But you know, fortunately for me, I've always been pretty comfortable in the water.
Right.
You know, when I got injured, you know, I broke my neck in the ocean and was floating, you know, face down for about 4 minutes before someone came and got me. So I've always been pretty comfortable in the water, and that's what I like about, you know, diving and swimming is like it's the only adaptive sport that I've found so far that you can do completely independent of you know, a wheelchair or some sort of chair.
Well, and that was one of the big draws for me was I knew that I was getting, you know, I'm 40 years old now, and I knew that I was getting a little old to get real passionate about some things that I would never be able to peak in, you know.
Yeah.
And diving's one of those things that realistically I could do into my 90s, you know, if I could still get up and walk around. And I tell people to this day, it's the most. I don't like being alone with my head. Like I constantly need noise or television or something. I don't like sitting with myself.
Yeah.
But it's as close to meditation as I think that I could get to. It's the only, when I'm under there, it's the only time that nothing on my body hurts and that I don't think about anything else besides what's going on in that moment.
Yeah, you don't worry about, you know, bills or VA appointments and medication lists and, you know, refilling prescriptions. You're just under the water.
Yeah, man.
And all you're listening to is just, you know, your regulator and then, you know, maybe what's going on around you. And yeah, it's one of those just like really good like trance sports where you just once you get in that zone, especially if like in Cozumel, you know, when with the drifts, like, dude, it just feels like you're flying sometimes.
Isn't drift diving the coolest thing ever?
Yeah.
We got to do there's no drift diving in Bon Air, which is where I'd done all my dives until Fiji. And we got to do some drift dives in Fiji. Oh my God, dude. It's the greatest thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be trying to get out. You know, I'm going to Cozumel again in late August, early September. But I'm gonna try to go out to like Puerto Rico, and check out some of the diving out there.
Yeah.
Oh, and then in 2 weeks I'm going to the Georgia Aquarium.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude. Edie has been, my girlfriend Edie's just off camera here, but Edie has been dying to go to the Georgia Aquarium. They got a whale shark.
Have you done that? Have you done that dive?
What are you talking about? You dive in the Georgia Aquarium?
Yeah.
Shut up. How are you doing that?
They do it yearly. But I was actually supposed to text you, because this past weekend I was in Houston.
Yeah.
And I, one of our, part of the Life Waters team, they live in Houston, and they actually, a couple spots had just opened up. I meant to text you about that.
Oh my God.
I don't want to make any promises right now, but yeah, let me remind me when we get off air.
That would be sick, dude. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's in 2 weeks. It's Mother's Day weekend, but
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you could still swing it.
Right.
But yeah, if not, we'll definitely keep you in mind for next time around. I think they even might be doing another one, maybe in November.
Yeah.
Because we had a group that had done it. I don't remember what month, but it was just last year, like right before Christmas, and they said it was incredible.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like concentration of just a variety of wildlife.
Oh yeah, everything's there, man. Yeah, that thing is. There are videos and pictures of that thing on Reddit all the time.
And they're doing. They want to set up something like similar at the St. Louis Aquarium.
Oh wow!
So yeah, if I hear of any aquarium dives, man,
that'd be sick.
I'll make sure I pass that on to you.
I want to volunteer at the Oregon Aquarium. The volunteer list for aquarium cleaners and maintainers is
that the one in Newport?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, but not just for that one. Just any. I mean, everybody wants to dive in aquariums.
Yeah.
So the list is usually forever long.
Oh, right. Where are some like what are your top, let's say, 2 destinations that like on your wish list, your diving bucket list?
The Galapagos, for sure.
Right.
And
I didn't even know you could dive there, because I know it's like a real pain in the ass to get to.
Yeah,
like you have to do all this like decontamination and
yeah, and there are one of my friends that helps run the nonprofit actually has a dive, her own like dive group that she sells. Like she's like a travel agent for diving basically, and she has done a trip out to the Galapagos. It was a little bit of a little bit of a hassle to do some of the stuff, but they were they're just you go down there and you dive with schools of hammerheads. I mean, every creature in the world congregates on the Galapagos. Another one would be, probably, I don't know. Vietnam is just opening up for diving too.
Yeah.
I think there would be some really cool stuff to see in Vietnam.
I'm trying to go to Malaysia in August for a rugby tournament.
Yeah.
And I think if I can make that happen, I'm gonna check out some of the diving out
there.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah. She does trips out to Palau and stuff too. They always love that place.
Yeah. I don't know what my top 2 would be. I hear a lot of good things about Egypt. There's like one famous area.
Egypt's got some outstanding diving.
Yeah. Maybe let things kind of calm down politically.
Right. And the Maldives too are fantastic.
I'll be honest with you, I don't even know where that is.
Well, they're
is that in the Mediterranean?
Sort of. I don't know if I could actually point to it on a globe. It's an Arabic country.
Okay.
But they've got really good. I think it's all liveaboard.
Boat yeah.
But it's supposed to be really good. I just thought the other place, probably my second, would be that continental shelf in Iceland.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Man,
that sounds cold.
It's brutally cold, but they make equipment for that. You know.
Have you been to Iceland?
Yeah, I just briefly. We were there for like or 3 hours on our way back from Kuwait. I haven't actually. We left the airport a little bit, but I didn't see anything.
Yeah, Noah went for the first time a couple years ago for the Spartan World Championship.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, this was in like December,
right?
And he said it was just fucking miserable.
Oh, yeah.
And it was actually like his first Spartan race,
right?
And he's in Iceland
in
December. Just said it was just freaking horrible.
Yeah, that's what I would not doubt that.
I was just like, dude,
yeah,
what were you thinking? And then to have to do like a Spartan race.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you
I did a Spartan,
yeah
because
we're
the sprint.
Okay, where was that at?
Up at Washougal.
Oh, nice.
The racetrack.
They call that the Oregon one, right? But
yeah,
it's in Washougal.
Was that
with Operation Enduring Warrior?
Yeah.
Right on.
So we were there. We were with the mass team the whole time. It was
the cosplayers.
Yeah.
That's what I call them. They get so pissed off every time I call it. But I mean, think about it. Like, do you really have to do a Spartan, or do you have to do any obstacle course race dressed up like a fucking ninja?
Well, so the thought process for them behind that was to maintain their anonymity.
I understand.
That's why they use the nicknames and all that. No, they're fun guys. They're
all great guys. Yeah.
For a few days before and after, but yeah.
Was Earl there?
No,
Earl Granville?
No, no, but Norby was. Do you know Norby?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of our mass team guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Norby's a great guy.
He's super cool. I was actually in the hospital with Norby when he got hurt.
Oh, wow.
We both got hurt around the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, but back in 2004, I was in the hospital with a lot of the people that are kind of in and out of the news.
Yeah.
A lot these days.
Was this in this is Walter Reed?
Yeah, Walter Reed.
Yeah, right on. How many months did you have to spend there?
I was there. I got injured June 13th, and my last day as a patient at Walter Reed was the next September. So I was there for a while.
But you had to spend some time in Germany for a little bit, right?
Only a couple of days.
That's it. And then
because I was still like kind of actively dying when I got to Germany, so they weren't trying to hold me. They're just wanting to stabilize me and get me shipped on back to the States as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Probably a lot easier to ship out a live body than
you would think
to have to go through the process of shipping out a dead body.
So. What's crazy, man? I went back there with the Winter Warrior Project, and we went to Launchstool, and and there were still people. There's still people coming in from Afghanistan, and not so much Iraq anymore, but Afghanistan and Africa and stuff. And
wait, what year was this?
2011, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And so, but they took us out to the medical flight, and there were so many things I didn't realize because I was unconscious for that whole leg of things, and there were so many things that I didn't realize. Like you're categorized in your different levels, based on the severity of your life-threatening injuries.
Yeah.
And so I would have been the highest category, and because of that, they actually took us out, let us sit on the plane while they were loading a medical flight to go back to the States. And there's a whole, like, they do a full like ramp ceremony and everything. Like they line the ramp. It's crazy. And each category, like the category, I don't remember how they categorize, but the highest level categories fly with an entire surgical team on each flight.
Yeah,
so
just in case anything.
I would have been assigned a surgeon, a nurse, an entire team. Anything that could have happened to me on that flight, they have every life-saving capability that they have in the trauma bay.
Yeah.
It was wild to think about that. How many resources that takes, especially back 2004, 2005, 6, 2007. When
especially when
we
shit
were
was
just
really
flooding
popping
the
off.
hospitals.
Yeah, man, that is. Yeah, you don't ever really think about that. And it's a whole giant war machine that no one really thinks about.
Right.
I mean, part of that is also making sure that the guys that are going over and getting hurt are coming back and getting taken care of. And
Right.
Have you had to deal with any obstacles with the VA or anything?
My VA experience has been great.
Yeah.
I mean, some headaches and hassles occasionally, but it's socialized healthcare, so it's what you kind of expect. But no horror stories at all.
Well, the saying is like, if you've been to one, or if you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA.
Right.
And like, experiences just always vary. And with the Portland VA, the biggest thing that I've had is just like getting urgent appointments in a timely manner, and then fucking trying to find parking up on the hill.
The parking is a problem, but they did open up that other garage now,
Okay.
so parking's not nearly the issue that it was.
Yeah, I always try to avoid it if I can.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to schedule up at the Vancouver clinic.
That's where my primary is, at Vancouver.
Yeah, and that's where Kirsten. She's still there as the OT. And,
oh yeah. But no, I haven't had the Portland VA has been great. Which, I mean, as a 100% service connected, complete and total with the Purple Heart. I mean, the only priority above me are former POWs.
Yeah,
and there aren't that many left. So I have the benefit of that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's easier for me to navigate along.
Rightfully so too.
I mean, I appreciate it, but I understand that my experience is not nearly as difficult as a lot of people's is.
Yeah.
So.
And like the Vietnam guys, I think were the ones really responsible, making sure that the next time that we go to a major war, that those guys get taken care of, and the care that we get compared to what those guys got.
Well, those guys put in all the legwork, they're the only reason that we know about, because the VA's got all these different programs and different things, and they don't advertise them, I mean, so you had to have those Vietnam guys coming in and figuring everything out, and making the whole process easier.
Yeah. And then now there's all these, veteran advocacy groups like the IAVA and the PVA, the Disabled American Vets, and just just a really good support group. And then you get outside of that, now you got all these nonprofits and foundations, like Oscar Mike and Valhalla and Wounded Warrior, and I mean, I don't even, there's hundreds of them, like Team River Runner and
Homes for Our Troops.
Who I just discovered recently that I want to get with, that's a local group here, is Team Overland.
Oh yeah, dude, doesn't that look so cool?
Yeah.
I don't have anything with that little Jeep Renegade. I couldn't run with those guys right now.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure they'd be accepted. You might get a couple laughs here and there.
Right.
But, we should try to go on their next run. I know they do one for like Memorial Day. I don't know if I'm going to be in town, but they do a big Memorial Day and a Veterans Day one.
Yeah.
It's cool. They're just they're a local 4-wheel club that
they go out in the middle of nowhere. I think most of them have the car top camp.
Are you into like off-roading and stuff?
I would be.
Yeah.
I don't have anything that off-roads right now, really.
So we just sent a group of guys to Moab.
Oh yeah.
For the Easter Jeep Safari.
That's awesome.
And I got to talk with my buddy Rob, who went, and man, he said it was just incredible.
I bet.
They just had, it was just I forget the name of the group that took them out. Maybe it was JKU, but they just had all these vehicles for them and took them up, and man, they had a blast.
That'd be awesome, dude.
I don't know if you've ever been to that area.
Yeah, that's when I drive to Arkansas, that's we go through Moab, and we spent about a week there last year at Green River, just outside.
That's where I stayed.
Yeah, well, Moab, I mean, Jesus, it's like trying to get into the Grand Canyon to get like a camping spot and stuff there. It
does not feel like you're on Earth. Like once you get out into the red desert,
it's your Mars, man. It's Mars.
You're just like, what is this? Like all these rock formations,
right?
And, like where are we right now? Let's try to pull some strings and see cool, if see if Noah will send us. I'll bring my trailer out. That'd be cool.
There you go.
You also got involved with Team Rubicon. I saw, I was kind of stalking your Facebook, and I remember you had gone out to Haiti.
Yeah.
For that recovery effort. What was that, like 2013?
It was after Hurricane Matthew.
Yeah, what year was that?
It was later than 13. It was just only a couple of years ago. 2015?
16?
Oh, 2016.
Okay.
I'm here in 2016. So
yeah.
That sounds about right.
How was that? How was working with that organization?
So when I went to Haiti, it was with a different organization that I met through Team Rubicon.
Oh, okay.
Team Rubicon started in Haiti. That's where the birth of Team Rubicon happened.
Oh, I didn't even
after the earthquake.
I didn't even know that. I thought they were a lot longer.
Yeah. And then no, they went out there after the earthquake, and just like they were just sort of these 6 dudes that had just gotten out of the military. The earthquake happened, and they linked up with some doctor who wanted to go in the Miami airport.
Yeah.
The legend goes, and then Team Rubicon was formed.
What a great concept, though. I mean, to apply like the skills that you learn in the military.
Oh, it's great for both ends, because you have the people that you're helping, the stateside and on, internationally. And then you have, for at least a limited time, you're back with your clan. You have that camaraderie. You all usually live together in like a gymnasium or a warehouse somewhere. And it's like being back in the military again. You're working in fire teams. We break everything down like the military, and so it's pretty great. Yeah,
that's kind of the number one thing I think most people miss when they get out is like finding that band of brothers.
That's it's a joke that the things that I miss most about the military are the things that I bitched the most about while I was in. Like when I got out, I didn't miss any of the pageantry or the dog and pony stuff. It was just like I miss living in a room the size of this studio with 12 other disgusting, smelly, just gross dudes. I miss that, man. I miss having to be that close with someone.
Yeah, like when you're out, on a field op for days,
right,
and you're just up and you're just pissed off, and and the thing is like you're going through it together, and that's kind of what gets you through it, and the conversations that you have, and you learn everything about everybody's family, and you learn you learn about a guy's like his wife's favorite meal and favorite pair of panties.
Exactly.
Like you get real intimate.
It's too much. You learn too much sometimes, but that's what's so great about it.
Yeah, man. Some of the conversations that you have, and that's why I kind of wanted to start this podcast, was just like, because one thing that I think that really separates like the military and veterans from like civilians is just our kind of sense of humor.
Yeah.
Some of the best laughs I've ever had, was just doing stupid shit. These impossible scenarios and just these debates that you'd get into.
Right.
And then just meeting people from, all sorts of different walks of life and learning about like their experiences. And
well, I mean, that's the great thing about it. And I'm assuming it's the same. I mean, my infantry experience was a little different than I guess some other MOSs maybe, but if there's one thing that the infantry attracts, it's groups of people who would never meet outside of that. I mean, like you got a bunch of redneck white boys and then a bunch of inner city minorities, and here you go. You live in the same room now. Get along.
Yeah, get along and learn how to work together. And it's sort of like a microcosm, but then even going further, it's kind of like a microcosm of, and I don't know if there's like a good way to put this, but we're not getting the top 10 of like the U.S. population. Like those guys are going to college and whatnot. So it's kind of like a bottom I mean,
Oh yeah.
I don't want to throw just any number out there, but it's like a bottom 20, bottom 25.
Right.
You might get one of those like stragglers from like, like me from the middle class, but
Right.
I mean, it is a lot of poor folks that,
That's it.
are forced to go into the military. And that's kind of one of the positive aspects of the military. It's kind of like a golden ticket from, the lower class into the middle class. And it gives you those opportunities to kind of like, put on your, put on your boots and grind. And then now you have the GI Bill, and
it's a great option for a lot of people, you know? And then, and I think it also teaches those people who wouldn't have had some of the experiences outside of the military. I think it's good. I think it's good for everybody all the way around, I mean, like it's you're learning about other people and races and cultures without having to be so formal about it. I think the military is like one of the most politically incorrect places I've ever been in my life, and we work awesome like that. Like,
there wasn't. I mean, there wasn't. I didn't think there was any like discrimination towards me personally.
Right.
I'm sure there might have been some like different experiences, but for the most part, it seemed like it did work, and I did have a combat MOS, and so we didn't have females.
Right.
And it was also
exactly.
it was amphibious assault, so you had to know how to swim. So there wasn't really a lot of black people in it. I mean, we had one at MOS school, and I think there was maybe like 3 or 4 in the entire unit, but we had plenty of Mexicans and a lot of Asians, a lot of white boys, and just from all different walks of life, city boys, rednecks, guys that had never left their home state.
Yep. Never been on an airplane before.
Never seen the ocean.
Yeah, exactly.
But it just works, man. It kind of makes you wonder, like, why are we having such a hard time getting along outside?
It's crazy, like it's absurd, And I'm off of Facebook now, and my life is much more pleasant that way.
Yeah.
But I see some of this stuff from some of these guys that I know don't think the way that they share on.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, like it's just,
I think it's social media.
Crazy.
I think it's social media programming us.
Yeah.
Because what it does, it creates these like echo chambers, and
that's it right there.
Yeah, and you follow like the memes that align with your political views, and if someone doesn't like it, you can just hit that unfollow button.
Yep.
And that's why I stopped unfollowing people. I've had to just unfollow like the annoying people that only post it over and over and over. But I like hearing other people's opinions and getting a different perspective, and that it just seems like we're not doing that enough. Like we're not listening to each other. We're just kind of
we're not everybody. No one's talking. Everyone's screaming at this point.
And what's crazy is like I bet you if we just like sat down and had an actual conversation, we'd all agree that like, all right, we have a lot more in common than kind of what appears to happen. Because it's like, I mean, what's the end game of all this if we can't learn how to get along? Like, and dude, what was crazy was there was a fucking forgot where I saw it, but it was like 45% of like Americans think that we're headed towards a civil war. And like even that, like, dude, I don't know if people have really thought this through. Yeah. Like that, nobody's gonna come out on top of that.
Well, that kind of just aligns with all these, like the whole immigration issue right now. I've seen so much stuff of it's time to invade Mexico, it's time to go to war. And I hear a lot of this war saber rattling from people who have never experienced anything of what that's like.
Yeah, like until you see and know what the consequences of it are.
Right.
Like I don't think you would ever want any of that on your home soil.
Oh God, no. I don't even want it anywhere else. I mean, like it's just, ugh.
Yeah, I don't want to say I've become like pacifist, because there are some times when you have to put boot to ass.
Right.
And we've been doing it for so long now that it's just like, I think it's time to kind of take a little break from that and kind of patch the things that kind of have been plaguing our country for a while. And the whole Trump thing, like you can get rid of the guy, but you're not going to get rid of the ideologies.
45%.
And he's kind of uncovered those bandages that we've just put on, and it's like, until we actually address the issue and just start kind of like figuring things out and just loving each other as neighbors again.
Right.
So who knows? Maybe what it's gonna take is just another world war. That seems
I
like,
hope not.
That seems like the last time that the U.S. was truly united.
Right.
Because even after 9/11, it was like we had them whole 3 days of flag waving, but then it was like, wait, now we're gonna go into Afghanistan, and who knows how many years we're gonna be fighting. And that was 2001. It's 2019 now. And
the longest war in history. The longest continuous war in the United States history.
Yeah, well, like, what is it? In 5 months, there's gonna be, well, less than 5 months, like 4.5 months. A kid who was born after 9/11 is gonna be eligible to go serve, and I mean, potentially we still got troops in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So, potentially he could go fight in a war that he wasn't even born when it started. And that's kind of scary if you really think about it,
That's nuts, man.
So we'll see. Let's see, we're about an hour and 10 into this thing.
Yeah, look at that. Time flies.
It does. Where do you want to go from here? What kind of plans do you have in the future? As far as I know you're kind of going whole hog with this diving thing.
Yeah, and that is kind of all I'm looking at right now. Yeah. I mean, viability. This is something that I've gotten into as I've gotten a little older, and I can get better from here. I'd say for the technical stuff, I need to get a lot of that done within the next 10 years or so to really be able to peak at it. But yeah,
I don't know if you want to talk about this on air, and we can certainly edit it out if you don't want to disclose any information. Yeah. But how is Valhalla receiving most of their funding?
So right now there's a foundation that has been giving us pretty much all of our funding to this point. That was part of the stumbles in the first, but we are actively right now becoming more autonomous. We're reaching out to outside donors, doing some grant writing, some different things.
Yeah. Do you have a grant writer on staff?
No one professional.
Yeah.
Edie has written grants before, successful grants. Mm-hmm. And we are partnered with the Portland Old Town Art and Culture Foundation.
Yeah. And
so they have grant writers on their staff.
Okay, great.
So because we're sort of fall under their nonprofit umbrella, we can also use members of their board it's sort of a crossover.
Yeah.
So
because there's a ton of veteran grants. That we were talking about with Life Waters and with Oscar Mike to start kind of approaching, because there's a lot of money out there. It's kind of like scholarships. There's a lot of grants out there. There's just not enough people trying to claim them, and then just like you said earlier, the VA doesn't really like to just advertise it.
Right. Yeah, and that's it's just a matter of kind of finding the one that fits with you, because a lot of them are earmarked for very specific things, and you have to prove that you're using them for that.
Yeah.
And we're considered a local nonprofit right now, meaning that we predominantly just work with veterans within the Northwest.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be branching out from that as we grow.
Yeah.
But right now that's where we're focused.
Well, if you guys are interested in doing like T-shirts and stuff. I know some guys in the business.
Oh
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was reaching out to Noah the other day. I wanted to just figure out how I could get him involved with this.
Yeah.
So
Well, I've been trying to get him to dive, and he dove before his injury,
right.
And it sounds like he's really interested in doing it. It's just trying to find the guy's time. He was busy last week because they had designing spaces out at the compound.
Right.
Have you
I haven't. I want to go out there, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy, man. Just following his growth, because I met Noah in 2010, and he was still like talking about T-shirt design. I don't even know if he'd printed the first one yet.
No,
it was a concept.
It was. I don't even think he printed it. It was still a concept in 2011 when we all met, and then that's when they launched. And
and now he's got. I mean, Jesus Christ, it looks like Nike out there.
Well, we gotta get you out there for the weekly programs.
I want to come out and just spend like a week and just hang out with Noah and hang out at the compound. Yeah.
Well, do you know?
And he invites me to the gala every year, and I haven't, or the whatever it's called,
the Oscar Mike Ball.
Yeah, and I haven't made it, so I guess that's a little bit of my fault too.
Yeah, put it on your calendar. It's a good time. It's in October.
Yeah.
In Chicago, we moved it out to Chicago a couple years ago, and it's they did the big reveal with the Spartan bike, or not the Spartan bike, excuse me, the American Chopper bike. They built the Spartan bike, and then they built the Oscar Mike bike with the sidecar. And, I was in Singapore during that whole deal.
Yeah.
But no, the weekly programs though, we we take 2 to 3 disabled veterans a week, and it's a Monday through Friday program where we do like flight lessons,
really
ride the Razor that has hand controls.
Yeah.
There's like some equestrian therapy, skydiving.
Really?
Do like a little mini triathlon.
That is cool, man.
Yeah, and the whole time you're staying at the Oscar Mike compound.
Yeah.
And supposedly I think they just put in like an accessible like gaming room with like quad friendly controllers.
Oh yeah.
No, it's a cool place, and it is cool to see how much we've grown.
Oh yeah, dude.
We went from and then also with like the wheelchair rugby team, we just hosted nationals, and
right.
we're gonna be hosting the rugby nationals for the next 2 years.
Wow. Yeah.
But man, yeah, it's really cool, and kind of want to start developing the other programs. So man, like I think diving, if you tug his ear about the diving, and I think once we finally get him under the water, he's just gonna be like,
oh yeah, dude,
okay, this is the second program that we need to really just start developing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, dude, Illinois sucks in the winter,
right? So
it just makes sense. Like, why don't we because you can only use the compound 6-7 months out of the year, when then the Illinois winters just fucking suck. So
yeah,
like let's start planning some dive trips, and let's get out to like Cozumel and Bon Air. And
Cozumel is it seems to me, I haven't been there, I need to go check it out first, but it seems to me like a really good option for groups to, because it's cheaper than Bon Air,
Yeah, it's really easy to get to.
Right. And drift diving, there's really no effort in it,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and we through Life Waters, we hooked up with one of the shops down there, and the resort that we stayed at, surprisingly was, for Mexico, it was wheelchair friendly.
Wheelchair-ish.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really have any major issues. There was like one ramp that was kind of steep, but if you get a good running head start and hit it full steam, you can get up it. But man, I was actually really impressed at how accessible it was, and I'm looking forward to getting back there. And I can't wait to get back under the water. Like, I got that aquarium dive in 2 weeks, and so I'm starting to get that itch. And
that one's gonna be awesome, man.
Yeah, every trip now, that I, even with rugby, I'm like, oh, is there something I can go diving? Like, can I bring my equipment? We had looked at like Singapore to go diving in Singapore, but it's just such a huge, maritime commercial hub that all the water around there is just dirty. So most people in Singapore, they go to like Malaysia or Indonesia.
Yeah, the Indonesia is another place that Ria goes with Over the Rainbow. And then one of my buddies just lived in Indonesia for about 2 or 3 months last summer. He was helping with. He was like
in Jakarta or like in Bali or.
Yeah, it's on one of the little islands. But there are a million of those. So I don't know which one. I know they went to Jakarta to watch. I believe they went to watch Bohemian Rhapsody or something. But it was like a 3-hour trip. They had to take a boat and then a bus.
Just to go to the movie theater?
Yeah.
To go see Bohemian? You must have been a big Queen fan.
I think it was just, like he's probably missing America a little bit.
It was
looking for something.
Did you see it?
I did, yeah. I watched it on the plane on the way back from Fiji.
I liked it.
I thought they did a good job with it.
Yeah.
I know that there were some people complaining.
There was a cool YouTube video that they did side by side with the actual Live Aid concert and then from the movie.
Yeah, that Malik dude, I thought he pulled it off.
Yeah. Well, did you watch Mr. Robot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 seasons of that and then I kind of lost interest.
Right.
He was really good in that, and I thought he was a good cast.
He plays weirdos, he's kind of like Johnny Depp, like he's really good at playing a strange character.
I think Johnny Depp is just a weirdo.
Yeah, I think he is too.
Yeah,
and I'm not convinced that this Malik guy's not either.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
he has a movie on Netflix too where he's he lives like a hermit out in the woods and he breaks into people's cabins and stuff and it was good, but it was just strange. The movie was just strange.
That reminds me of there was a movie I watched on a flight recently with Ben Foster.
Yeah.
And it was filmed in Oregon.
I think, we watched that same one where he had his daughter. He was a vet. Yeah. He had his daughter.
Yeah. And they were just living out in the woods. It was like Leave No Trace.
Leave No Trace. Yep.
Yeah. And he was like, they didn't really specifically say, but he was obviously dealing with some sort of like.
Oh yeah. Well,
PTS.
he would go to the VA to get his meds and
then sell them.
And sell them.
Yeah. That was actually filmed maybe 10 minutes from here at Eagle Fern.
Yeah, they filmed it, part of it there, and then was that where the tree farm was that he worked?
That was definitely Clackamas County. That was
it was all because a lot of the outdoor shots were at Forest Park too.
Okay.
And they even mentioned Forest Park a couple of times, and then he was walking across the bridge at Oregon City.
Yeah.
For one of the scenes.
Yeah, and then the St. John's was there.
Yeah.
And then the first shot of the VA was that big lobby.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, I know where that is. Yeah. It's like they're right above the grand piano there.
Yep.
So that was kind of cool. Did you are you a Game of Thrones fan?
I am, but I am not caught up on this season yet.
On this season at all?
Yeah, not yet.
Right.
We've been storing them up because I hate watching them one at a time. And
that's the way to do it, though.
So we've been. We're gonna watch them tonight because it's getting almost impossible to not get spoiled. At this point.
I had to watch. I got back from Houston on Sunday, and I had to. It was like, well, it's probably easier for you because you don't have Facebook.
No, I don't have Facebook, but Reddit will spoil things for me too. Yeah, and I'm on there all the time.
Yeah, I was. I pulled up. I think I pulled up Reddit and I saw a picture.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, gotta close this. And pulled up like Facebook and I saw a picture and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna. It's like 11 o'clock. I'm just gonna watch the fucking episode.
We were talking about it this morning, and somehow it hasn't been spoiled yet, except at this point, I don't know who's dead, but I know who's still alive. You know? So I guess there's been a little spoiler there, but
well, what I like is when you watch it week to week is you can have, especially if you have friends that
I think that's what we're gonna have to start doing.
Yeah, is that you can just have these conversations and like you can kind of ping pong theories back and forward and like, all right, like, is this gonna happen, or like, hey, I think this is gonna happen.
At the end of the last, whatever, 2 years ago or whatever it was when the last episode, we had just all sorts of theories about different things that were gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's man.
Especially once it got out of the books, So my buddy Sean was the worst about, well, I don't know how they're going to do it on the show, but this is what happens in the books. Shut up, dude. Shut up.
I'm guilty of that, like where I'm like, the book was better.
Yeah.
I tried reading the Game of Thrones books, got into the first one.
A little dense.
And it was, there was just way too many characters. And, but from what I hear, when HBO took over on the writing, George R.R. Martin just kind of told them, like, all right, this is the end point. Just see how you're going to get there. Like, it's up to you guys. And I don't know. Like, it seems like the last, like, 3 seasons, the writing's been kind of, like, clunky. And
I mean, you could tell once they went off script a little bit,
Yeah.
And they got more into, I think once HBO had control of it, they got more centered on the action than the story.
Yeah.
Which I guess is what sells, but...
Are you watching Westworld yet?
We've watched not the new. No, we're not caught up on it. We're not caught up on any new seasons of anything right now.
Oh man, but you did watch the first season of Westworld.
Yep.
Man, I'm really hoping they get the Game of Thrones budget.
Yeah.
Like eventually, because it's just an incredible show, and it's such a cool concept, and it's like sci-fi and a little bit of Western.
Yeah, I wasn't when she introduced me to it, and I wasn't fully sold on it before I watched it. You know? And then I was like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like Terminator meets
The
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly or something. Yep. It's just kind of, it mixes pretty much 2 of my favorite genres, like sci-fi and westerns.
Right. Yeah.
So
she actually, even though it's been off the air for years now, she got me into Firefly. And, and we like binged it. I loved it.
Yeah, everyone's been telling me to check that out.
It's good. It's you gotta go into it. It's a little campy and kind of low budget. It was actually really low budget, but that's sort of the charm about it,
Yeah.
And it's a really good series. And then they canceled it too early, which is unfortunate. I think back then it was taking up network space, and they could that's probably their decision to cancel it. I think Firefly would still be going if it had started in like the Netflix, Hulu.
It was
times.
Just too ahead of its time. And
yeah.
It's amazing how many shows like get greenlit on Netflix.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, for a while there, they were hitting home runs after home runs, and now I think it's just so saturated that there's like all these shows that everyone's always telling me to watch, and I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm just gonna watch It's Sunny in Philadelphia again for the 100th time. Like literally, I've probably watched the entire series.
That's how I am with The Big Bang Theory. I don't think there are any of those that I haven't seen 3 or 4 times already.
Big Bang Theory though.
I love Big Bang Theory, dude.
Dude, I never got into it.
Did you not like it?
Have you ever? Love it, man. There's a funny YouTuber that takes the laugh tracks out of The Big Bang Theory, and it's just amazing how like, wait, these jokes don't land at all. Like, actually, you're kind of an asshole. Yeah, like this is kind of mean.
Yeah, no, I get it. There's a lot of hate out there for Big Bang Theory, but I just love it.
Well, it's just like The Office. I watched like 2 or 3 episodes of The Office and never really got into it, and everyone, there's people that are out there that just kind of like think it's the greatest thing.
Yeah, I was the same way with Parks and Rec. I've seen like
I did get into that though.
Every episode multiple times.
Yeah.
And a little bit annoyingly so, because I reference Parks and Rec like on a daily basis.
Is that
she doesn't always she's seen it a little bit, but she doesn't always get it.
Yeah, I'm only maybe like 2 watches, like season or series, like the entire series.
I just like that show made me fall in love with Nick Offerman, and then
I was gonna say like
does his wood shop stuff,
the woodwork and stuff. It seemed like it probably stemmed from
and he's just a crazy like intelligent dude, and like his some of his ideas and stuff. I've read all of his books too.
My massage therapist was telling me his book, the one about the canoe or whatever.
Yeah, paddle your own canoe.
Yep. Like he said, that was actually like a surprisingly
they're all
really
good.
thought out book. I'm gonna have to, next time I'm at Powell's, I'm gonna have to check out one.
Yeah, man.
So, is there any shows right now that like kind of spark your interest? Or?
I think my favorite show in history is probably Shameless, the American version of Shameless.
All right, yeah. I've only finished the first season.
Yeah,
but I do like the humor.
I think it's maybe some of the best writing I've ever seen on a show. I mean,
and is
just
it consistent?
In my opinion, yeah. Because as you progress through the seasons, it's just like the writers can just lead you, man, any way they want you to go. Like, you're gonna hate Debbie this season, and they make sure of that. You know, like it's crazy. These characters that you're in love with, you're just like, oh, fuck, I hate Lip this season. You know, like it's just. It's great,
dude. It sucks because I just don't have enough time in the day to really do that. There's a lot of like shows, especially with like HBO, that I'm trying to go back and watch.
Kind of Game of Thrones and some of the primetime evening stuff, the little like Mike and Molly, just stuff that's easy to watch.
What's Mike and Molly?
Mike and Molly is with is it Mindy McCarthy?
Oh,
Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah.
And they're just this like kind of overweight couple living in Chicago.
All right.
It's there's nothing spectacular about it, but it's just easy to watch. We watch more documentaries than anything else.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Like Ken Burns and
I'll watch a documentary if it's well made about almost anything.
Yeah. Did you watch Vietnam? You haven't seen Ken Burns' Vietnam?
No.
Oh, well, have you seen any of the Ken Burns, like The War?
I don't think so. I know his name.
Okay.
But dude, if you're into that kind of stuff, did you go? It was running on a limited release when they did the World War I documentary.
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson. Holy crap, man! That was phenomenal.
Wait, what do you mean it was in theaters?
In theaters.
It's going to be coming out.
Is it coming out? I figured
I hope
would.
So.
It was too good not to.
You're not going to spend that much money on a project and not put it out on a box.
Good. Yeah. You know, and we went and watched it on like one of the first date that it came out. I missed it, and then they were like, they ran another release of it, and it was just phenomenally done, dude. And when they colorize it and put audio to it, and they just there's like a 30-minute documentary on the back end of it that shows how they made it. And just all the time and effort and everything, bringing in lip reading experts and tracking down. There's one point where a guy's reading a paper, and they found that piece of paper so that they could authenticate that that's actually what you're seeing. And they were even bringing out, like, they were looking at the unit patches, figuring out what part of England these guys were coming from, and then bringing the lip readers from that area of England so they would have the same accents.
Make sure they had the right
guys. It was just,
that's insane.
It was crazy, man.
Yeah, that sounds like a really in-depth project.
Because they had to take all this video. They had hundreds of hours of archived video, and it was all sped up because they were at a much higher frame rate back then.
Yeah,
and so they had to slow everything down and then clear it up, and then if it was overexposed, they had to clean that. It's phenomenal what they were able to do.
That sounds like just like a masterpiece.
It is filmmaking. It's a work of art,
like historic recreation.
Yeah,
and like World War I doesn't ever. Maybe it's just because we're Americans. We didn't really learn a whole lot about World War I, and I didn't know much about it either till I listened to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History.
Oh yeah,
on World War I.
That's a good show. Yeah.
Holy fuck! And then when I went to the World War I museum in Kansas City, and you're just like, dude, okay, World War II was pretty bad, right?
Right.
But there was still some like things that you weren't allowed to do. Like, you didn't have chemical weapons.
Yeah.
You weren't dropping lead darts out of airplanes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, aviation warfare was still new, so we were still trying to figure things out. Like, hey, let's just grab this kettlebell and drop it out of an airplane and see what happens. Let's drop these, pointed darts that are just going to nail people. You imagine being, like, in an infantry column?
No.
And then you have, like, airplanes flying overhead, and now you got these metal pencils that are flying down at you.
Yeah.
And dudes are dropping, and just the sound that's gonna make, like against a metal helmet.
It was just
Trench warfare.
Insane, bro. Like all the people that they're talking about, like how many more people died of disease and of drowning in the mud, you know,
infection. Just imagine that.
They
Like
had because the mud was just quicksand basically all around you, and if you fell off of these little boardwalks that they had set out, then you were done. Like they couldn't even save you, you know.
Yeah, and then you survive all that just to be like, hey, we're gonna go charge this trench at 0:08.
Yeah.
Like when you hear the whistle, go, and what happens happens.
That's what was like on the documentary. It shows them at one point. It shows video of them huddled below this embankment, and they were waiting on the call to go over this embankment and do a charge. And you're really like, since they put the sound and everything, you're really like almost get to know these guys on the screen, you know.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, they were like, everyone you see here died on the charge, you know. And it was just like a whole line of dudes, you know.
Yeah.
You're like, what? They're all dead.
Yeah, I got to go when I was in Australia back in December. I got to go to their National World War I Museum.
Right.
It's a lot different than ours because they, they had just got their like sovereignty maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not a history major anymore, but they had just recently become a country, and they figured, hey, if England's at war, like we're gonna be at war. And Germany actually had owned, Papua New Guinea.
Right.
So they were afraid of that, and they were in the fight, and it was really it was kind of cool to see a country that was actually involved with the war from start to finish.
Right.
Versus kind of like, U.S. just kind of took that like group, that kid in the group project that kind of shows up at the end and takes all the credit, right there at the end.
And how is there a museum? I know that like when I've been to Europe, their museums are so different from ours because they let you. I remember going to these Roman bathhouses in Germany, and it was literally we were the only people in there. You could go anywhere you wanted. You could get right up next to everything and touch the walls, and I was so it blew my mind coming from the U.S. where you're held 30 feet back, Yeah. And, like it
was a lot like our museums. They had like almost all the exhibits were kind of like in glass cases.
Oh yeah, okay.
The history of Australia is it's really fascinating.
Right.
With coming from a prison colony to its own sovereign nation. And
if you like Australia, there's a really good book called The Dig Tree. And it's about sort of Australia's Lewis and Clark expedition. The guys that went through the interior up to the north coast.
Yeah, what was that? Was it McDonald or something?
Yeah, I believe that was
McDouglas
his name.
Or MacArthur.
Yeah. It was wild. A lot of them died. Like they weren't nearly as successful as Lewis and Clark, But
it's a lot harsher.
Yeah,
a lot harsher environment seems like.
But there was the whole reason behind the dig tree was that they had buried some supplies next to this watering hole, and they carved "dig here" or something into the tree, this eucalyptus tree.
Yeah,
and one of the parties had split off to try and they didn't think they would make it, and then they didn't see the sign or something, and ended up dying because they didn't get to the supplies or whatever.
Yeah,
it was just that history is just reading about because I love Lewis and Clark. Like I'm kind of a Lewis and Clark buff.
Yeah,
but just hearing sort of the history of another country with the same type of thing,
So there's a really good Ken Burns documentary that I think you would like called The West.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much about from like the Louisiana Purchase up until we, ended up colonizing the entire West, but how we got from point A to point B. And they even dive back into like when the Spaniards were up in the, North America, I think even as early as like the early 1700s.
Right.
But it's a really well done documentary, especially considering that, he was using mostly just photos to tell the story.
Right.
But man, Ken Burns, I think, is the master at making the documentary. There
I'll
hasn't
check 'em
been
out
a
then.
single one I didn't like, but Vietnam is his most recent one.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, just being from the 1960s, it's so recent. So he's got the footage, he's got the music, but the way that he tells the story, like it was one of the first and the only really documentary series that I've seen on Vietnam where they interview like Viet Cong soldiers and NVA soldiers, and you kind of get their perspective of the war.
Right.
And you know, when you hear a North Vietnamese soldier talk about his experience with Vietnam, it's kind of scary how similar it is to an American soldier.
Yeah.
And they talk about, I mean, there's, not to give anything like so far away, but like there's one part towards the end where this guy, he ends up going back home, a North Vietnamese soldier. He goes back home, and his family, you know, they're happy to see him, but they can't celebrate because the other 7 families that lived in their apartment, their kid never came home.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to like rub it in their face. And it was just one of those moments where you realize, man, like there's nothing good about, you know, a war and armed military conflict. Like there's no winners or losers. Like we all lose.
Yep.
In one way or another. So that actually makes me think, like, I'm sure the guy that threw the grenade at you is fucking long gone, and he's probably met his maker a long time ago. But like, if you could sit down and have a beer with him, like,
would I?
Would you?
Absolutely.
And what
100%.
do you think and what do you think that conversation would be like?
I don't know. I mean, you know, he probably had the same. I mean, well, a little different, but he had his reasons.
Yeah.
I've always thought that's been a big part of my story, you know, is because whenever I finally woke up out of my coma, I was in a coma for 10 days, and I finally woke up out of my coma, and I was in just the worst pain that I ever thought that you could be in. And I felt I had huge survivor's guilt, even though no one else had died that day. I felt like if something happened because I hadn't done my job right, that would be my fault, you know. And so I had all this hate and anger and rage and hurt and everything else, and I kept trying to focus on this guy in the FUBU shirt, you know. And after a few days, man, I still
think that's insane that you were close enough to know that he was wearing like a FUBU shirt.
Yeah. And after a few days, I was like, man, I can't, no matter how much I try, like this dude had his reason to be there doing what he was doing, and if I'd have seen him first, you know, that was a risk that he was taking too. It was just like I can't hate this guy. And as soon as I let that go, man, like my pain started getting better, and I was taken out of the ICU, put up on the amputee ward, you know. And I've lived with that ever since, because I see guys now that are 7, 8, 9 years out from their injury and are so bitter about it, you know. And I'm like, you're trying to, like, you take what you consider to be the worst thing that's ever happened to you, and then make that the nucleus of what you are as a human being. That has to be terrible, you know.
Like you shouldn't let that define you.
No, or let it define you, but just in a good way, you know. Like it's just it's kind of your choice and your attitude, like. How you want to be, you know.
We see that like in the disabled veteran community, and even just in the veteran community, that like once you get out, like does it feel like there's like kind of a image that you're supposed to like uphold? You're supposed to grow a beard. Like you're supposed to
I'm supposed to vote Republican and wave the flag.
Wear a dysfunctional veteran flag or a shirt.
I saw the humor in that whole dysfunctional veteran thing at first, but now it just spreads such a negative message that I worry about it a little bit, you know. I mean, because there is a certain point where the onus is on us to meet society 50% of the way, you know. Like we if we want a society to assimilate to us, then we have to be willing to give the same back.
It's part of that reintegration process and that transitional period, and it does bother me, like when you get out and like you do see that, like oh man, like, I'm a veteran, so I have to vote one way, and I have to feel this way about a certain topic, and
Yeah.
and that's why I've always liked hanging out with guys like you and Noah's, because like we kind of understood that, like, man, there's, when you were in the military, there was you served alongside Democrats, you served alongside libertarians,
Right,
Republicans, Satanists, Catholics,
Exactly.
Jewish people. Like it was just, and none of that even mattered.
Nope.
And don't let your DD-214 change who you are as a person. You're still an individual.
I've always said that when you get to the point where you start using your service as a shield to keep society away from you, then that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I hear a lot that civilians can't relate to. Of course they can't, but that's not their fault. Are you going to avoid them for the rest of your life? I mean, like,
yeah, it's gonna be a very lonely existence.
You're lonely, man. And then your only choice then is to live your life inside this echo chamber.
Yeah, that's what happens is you surround yourself with other veterans, and I feel like that path just kind of leads to bitterness, and
I feel so fortunate that for whatever reason I was able to think about these things like this early on, man, because I've had so many cool opportunities just because I'm able to step outside of that box, like, and it's just, it's nice to know that I can go anywhere in the world and get along with people, like,
yeah,
it's just, I don't,
that's another thing, is just like when, I think when you don't travel,
yeah,
and especially if, let's say you join the army at 18, and then you get shipped off overseas and you have to go fight a war, and your only travel experience is to an armpit in
where
a world
someone's trying to kill you,
where someone's trying to kill you, and you're living like in the mud, and that's your only experience, but you don't get out and you don't get to see like the beautiful parts of I mean, I've been I've been to a lot of beautiful destination countries, like Mexico. Certain parts of Mexico is
right,
gorgeous.
yeah.
And like Switzerland. But then, when you get into parts like Cambodia and like Laos, and you see it for what it is, but you see that like people are just happy to have fresh water, and clean drinking water, or they're happy to have chicken tonight for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes you really appreciate what you have as an American.
I've been to some like Central American countries and stuff that are, I don't think they're poor, but they don't have what we have in the States, But going to Haiti was really an eye-opening experience for me. I mean, it was just,
especially because it's
I'd
so
never
close
seen,
to the U.S.
Even and it's volatile. It's potentially volatile all the time. It's one of the most dangerous places I've ever been. Port-au-Prince, especially, including Baghdad. Like it is a dangerous place.
You had an incident there. Didn't you have a pretty close call?
Not. Yeah, I mean, we had people like, it wasn't uncommon for like people to try and come on the plane and hijack your stuff,
Right on the plane.
Oh, as soon as you land, they'll swarm you. Yeah. And they were hijacking trucks. I mean, they weren't being violent to us, which is okay, but it was you either, like on the plane, we would try and kick them off and then dump our stuff and take off as fast as we could. But with the trucks, they were just handing over the stuff, and they just wanted to supply off the trucks, and then they would drive the trucks back, load up again, take them. They were trying to get them all out to the peninsula that got hit the hardest, and then they get hijacked on the way again. It's just an unstable. The government there is crazy corrupt, and it's just an unstable place. But it's really interesting, like the people and the culture and the voodoo. They love, they do a lot of voodoo and stuff, and it's just talking to some of the Haitians. It's a really interesting place, but it is like the poorest part of Africa, 500 miles off the coast of Miami. It's wild that it can be that close to the U.S. You know,
That's pretty much like from here to San Francisco.
you could easily go to Haiti for lunch and come back the same day.
Yeah.
And it is so different. I mean, people were literally dying of infected flea bites because they can't get the medications that we have there. Cholera is a thing again now, you know, like in Haiti.
You'd only heard about that on the Oregon Trail.
Right.
You know? I forgot what I was going to say. God damn, I'm like all over the place today. Got to take my vitamins or something. Yeah, people don't realize that, like, man, we really did hit the lottery when we were born in America.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for what it's worth, like, we just a couple degrees latitude one way would have just completely shifted things for a lot of people. And, like, you know, when you see these
that's I think one of the things that maintains ignorance here a little bit, because we don't. It is hard for Americans to relate with things that as the way that they go on in other places.
Yeah, well, when you see all like the immigrants, the aliens that are flooding the border, and you know we got this crisis, and it's like, well, yeah, we do have a crisis, and it's a global crisis that like, you know, there's parts that kind of suck, and there's parts that are well off, and it's like you expect the people to stay where it sucks, like.
And I try to ask people, like, can you even fathom putting yourself in their shoes, the desperation that it takes?
They can't, because the simple answer is just like, well, then they should just rise up and fight, and it's like, that's not always an option.
Fight what? We can't fight our government. Neither can they. You know?
Yeah, and we're armed to the teeth. We got more guns than people.
Right.
You know, there's more guns in Texas than there are people in the U.S.
Exactly.
And there's no way in hell we'd even stand a chance against half the U.S. military.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's just it's kind of like are like we're just like lacking that compassion. And it's like, and there's a lot of, hey, things are good for me, so fuck everyone else.
Yeah, and there's a very much a feeling of ownership with us too. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I was born here, so this is my country. Even though a lot of people have never done anything for the betterment of the United States, you know, they just always reap the reward of it.
That's another thing is like there's no price you have to pay. Like, you know, in Israel and in South Korea, those places are just as well off, and they have to go serve. Like there's they have to put into the system
with the mandatory service of some sort. I don't think everyone needs to go into the military. I just don't.
No, fuck no.
But something, you know, something like AmeriCorps or like, you know, some sort of mandatory service would be great.
Some kind of volunteering.
Yeah,
like,
something that just takes you out of your normal comfort zone, makes you experience some other culture or some other way of life.
Yeah,
you know?
I'd like to see that as a requirement out of high school.
Yeah.
Because right now, the way our system's set up, it's like you are forcing these 18-year-old kids to make a decision about what they want to do, and they're not exploring enough like career fields. I mean, you know, in high school, I thought I was gonna be a businessman,
right?
And then I thought I was gonna be a mechanic.
Yeah.
I had no idea that, like, you know, you could be a journalist, you could be a writer.
Right.
And maybe that's just growing up in an Asian family.
One of the things that, if you listen, we don't always agree a lot politically, but Mike Rowe talks a lot about how there's a huge shortage in the trades now.
Yeah.
Because such an onus has been put on going to college, getting your college degree.
Yeah.
Now we're flooded with people with college degrees.
Yeah.
And there aren't enough welders and pipe fitters, and you know, and a lot of those careers make way more money than you do with your college degree.
Way more money with less school and less debt.
Yeah.
And for, you know, for some people, it's like you push that college education. It's like, what if they want to work with their hands? What if they want to be an artist? Or what if they don't, you know, they can't function in a 9-to-5 cubicle.
Right.
Like they would rather be working, you know, a 12-hour shift at the firehouse or, you know, welding or just fabricating. You know, I think there's a lot that we can improve on in this country, but it's until we get it drilled that like, all right, this is something that we all had to work for and that we all had to put in. You can't just keep pulling out of the pot. Like you have to give in at some point. And,
right.
You know, there's we're all in this together. You know, there's not like a left and a right, and it's like, I don't want to get too fucking political into this, but it's like, you know, like we're all in this. Like we all have to make this work together. Right. Like there's the only other option would be like, all right, let's just, you know, we're too big now. Let's just split it up. Yeah. Like we're just way too big. There's too many people. There's too many different ideas. Then let's just split it up. If we can't freaking agree on something, like, yeah, you know, then let's just be the divided states of America. Cause yeah. You know,
yeah, I don't know what the answer is, man. I mean, you know, I've always said, and I think I could definitely be proven wrong on the idea, but I wouldn't disagree with having to have a test to be able to vote. You know, like not even for intelligence. Like I'm not saying that only intelligent people can vote, but you need to have a working knowledge of certain things.
Yeah, let's make sure
in order to make an informed decision on.
Let's make sure we know what we're voting on and what we're voting for.
Know the difference between Republicans and Democrats, and you know, like just some of these basic things. You know.
Yeah, I think there's.
Because I think if you tested some people, they would be like, well, you know. Republicans do this, and Democrats, they want to take all your guns away and kill babies. You know, and there's just so you're either this or you're this. You know.
Yeah, that's another thing. You know, and I noticed that since I'm back in the dating game now, and I actually lost a match on Bumble because she had scrubbed through my Instagram and found pictures of guns. And it's God. Like
it's probably a good match to lose.
Yeah, okay. Right. And I mean, everything else, like we had all this in common, but I feel like, you know, I might be too conservative for some liberals, and I might be too liberal for some conservatives.
You're gonna run into that.
Yeah, and it's like you just got to find that middle ground.
Yeah.
Going back to voting though, how about voter suppression? And like, why isn't Election Day a national holiday? And why doesn't every state have a mail-in ballot?
Why doesn't every state have a mail-in ballot? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
You know, jeez. Or something like it.
I was just really surprised to learn how much more difficult it was to vote, you know, in Alabama.
When you have to line up and stand for hours, dude, I might not vote under that system, you know?
Like, and you know, like on what is it, like a Tuesday? And it's like, you got work, you got this, and it's like, right. Well, wait a minute, come on. Like, there's got to be an easier way to do this.
It's insane. And just a lot of the obvious suppression that goes on with it too. Yeah. It's just like, if you're gonna do something criminal, at least try to hide it from me, dude. You know?
Man,
like it's just insulting to do it right in our faces.
It's the Trump era now, though. It's like, I mean, we've always known that you know, they've always been corrupt,
right?
But now it's just like they're not even trying to hide it. They're just like, just do something about it. Like this.
And the scary thing is we found out exactly how hard it is to do anything, for any sort of punishment to happen with that.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what's cool, though, is we've also found out that, like, the president doesn't really have that much power.
No.
Because if there was going to be someone who's going to try to abuse his power, it's going to be a guy like Trump. And so far, he's just been kind of
just stalled. I tell you what, Trump would not be as relevant as he is if he had all of his Twitter and social media taken away.
Yeah,
you know, it's because then you can't hear him scream. Then
Yeah, and that's kind of another thing is like Twitter doesn't want to deplatform him,
right?
Because they're just like, no, like you guys need to see this, like you have an access to.
That's it, and then like Fox News, you know, and I know that's an instant, like people get heated if you start talking about Fox News, you know, But as someone, if I were a registered Republican, I'm a registered independent at the moment, but if I were a registered Republican, Fox News would be a disgrace to me, because they're just making a mockery of my party at this point, you know?
Yeah, it's the whole, you know, that they have all sorts of videos of them criticizing Obama about one thing and then praising Trump for that exact same
Right.
thing. And then you can even go, on Reddit, there's, what is it? Trump criticizes Trump.
Trump criticizes Trump and
Yeah.
Trump Gret. There's
Trump Gret,
Gret's
yeah.
pretty great
But
too.
the Trump criticizes Trump is just old tweets of him yelling
And-
at
that's-
Obama.
That's the thing that gets me, man, is I don't hate Republicans. A lot of, fully half of the people I know and grew up with are Republicans, pretty conservative
yeah.
Republicans. But at this point, Trump is not one of you, man. You know, like it's party preservation. I get that to an extent, but this is not the guy that you need to
It's
preserve
like that.
your
It's
party.
like that team mentality, and it's like, oh wait, we're winning, and the liberals are losing, and that's
Owning the libs.
yeah, exactly. And that's this is gonna piss off a lot of liberals, and it's like, well, you do realize that like half the country is liberal, and you can't just get rid of that entire half because there's productive people on both sides. You look
And by a lot of the new Republican Party definitions, then I am pretty liberal, and I certainly have some liberal tendencies, but I wouldn't consider, but I am a bleeding heart to some of these people,
yeah.
It's just,
Well, it's like if you give on a little, and that's like same with like the gun industry. I mean, there's people that look at me like I'm anti-gun. It's like, wait, I got a gun safe full of 20 long guns and a bunch of pistols. Like I love the shit out of guns.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be as easy as it is to get a gun.
yeah,
Like,
no.
why should
and
you
what's
be?
what's the harm in that? Like what's the harm in making it a little more selective?
Yeah.
Like what's the harm in maybe this dude's been locked up in a mental institution. Probably doesn't need 4 AR-15s. Or the Vegas shooter,
Yeah.
If you buy 30 guns, 30 assault rifles in the span of 2 months, someone should look at you,
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have a dealer's license.
And I don't know how anyone argues like, well, it's just his right. It's it's his right. It's like, well, everyone also has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And does anyone really need 30 guns? No. But if you want 30 guns, maybe like the ATF should take a little extra look at you,
Right.
see like, okay, like this guy checks out.
That
or
goes.
what.
They don't think that there should be any oversight with that at all.
Right.
And that's a scary world to think about living in, where you can literally buy anything you want without some sort of oversight for it. You know? Like,
And I never understood that argument
Yeah.
once. It's like, wait, so you're saying that you want to be able to buy, a Ma Deuce?
right.
What are you gonna do with what purpose does a Ma Deuce have besides spit
Home
out
defense.
against an entire horde of what?
Right. It's for the zombie apocalypse.
Are you gonna
man.
try to shoot down planes?
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do with a Ma Deuce? Like, there's no reason to have a 50 cal.
Yeah.
But there's some people that are just gonna argue it, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, man.
The gun debate's it's really interesting, and I actually have when I first got out, I was looking into getting into the firearm industries, and I actually have an FFL application.
Oh, yeah?
All filled out, but I never submitted it because of how the gun industry is and how I feel like it plays off of people's fears.
Yeah.
And it's like, when Obama got elected, I mean, you look at the spikes in gun sales, because they're like,
same thing with
great,
Clinton,
they're gonna be
Yep.
coming for our guns.
Such that and abortion, gun control and abortion are just the two clickbait issues for every election, and it's just, and now we've moved on to like, I think open carry should be allowed everywhere. And you had the genius down in Phoenix that walked his daughter to her plane with his AR-15, like shoulder strapped,
Oh, I didn't even read about that.
at Ready Arms, I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, douche, like it's just, I fully support a concealed carry license for anybody who can qualify for one.
Yeah.
But if I don't know you personally, I should never know that you have a gun ever.
Yeah.
And I don't want everyone walking around with 6-shooters on their hips looking like cowboys and downtown Clackamas, you know.
I don't mind the open carry as much.
Yeah.
But I mean, just know that like when you are open carrying, if I was a criminal and I was knocking over a store, I mean, I'm gonna recon the place, and you're gonna be the first person I'm taking out.
Yeah.
And you won't ever see it coming.
You know, it was funny. Yeah. There was that guy in Gresham that he was open carrying, and someone robbed him of his gun. They stole his gun from him.
Yeah.
While he was open carrying.
Oh, I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I mean I don't have I guess I do have a problem, but I guess I have less of a problem with the open carry. But it's such a bully move to me too. Yeah. You know, like it's just like whipping out your dick to see who's is bigger.
Well, it's those,
and I'm not saying like if I go fish or something, there's no problem with carrying a gun on your hip out there. You know, like I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, it's the idiots that feel like they have the need to, you know, shoulder sling an AR-15 and go to Walmart.
It's intimidation, you know, and it's just you're just trying to be intimidating.
I think it's intimidation. It's also just trying to get that attention.
Yeah,
I think this goes back to social media. I think it's just like it's kind of like wired us for narcissism, and everybody just wants to crave that attention, and like you know, no one just open carries an AR-15 and goes to Walmart anymore. You have to take a picture of it, and you have to post it on Instagram and hashtag 2A and hashtag fuck the libs and
you own the libs. Yeah, triggered.
Yeah, that's another funny one. It's
Lord.
just the triggered. It's like, all right, I mean, we're all snowflakes. We're all sensitive about something, and it's like,
well, and you know, blaming the other side too. This hardcore liberals have not made that argument any better on themselves. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
Well, when you got, especially you know, us living in the Portland metro area, and you remember when Trump got elected, and there was just all sorts of riots, and it's like, all right, everybody, just relax. Like things are going to be okay.
Right.
He's just the president. Like it's not. It's kind of it's like a puppet show. Like he's not really pulling a whole lot of strings.
Head.
Yeah, he's gonna be able to say a bunch of stupid shit and try to do a bunch of dumb things, and nothing's gonna get accomplished. You know, and that's why we have checks and balances, and that's why when we want to get things done, things never get done. When things don't want to get done, things don't get done anyway.
Well, the people that you really have to worry about are the heads behind the scene, you know, the Mitch McConnells, and you know, like it's just that old boys network.
I think it's all the corporations and the lobbyists, and like Big Farm and just all the bankers and just I mean the stockbrokers and like I mean there's I feel like everyone is always looking to blame, and like, you know, they're kind of always looking like left and right, and I've always felt like we should be looking up and down.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a communist by any means, but I feel like, you know, the libertarian approach and the late stage capitalism that we're in right now, it's not working, and it's not working for everyone. It's working for that top 1%.
And that's why I don't understand why everybody else isn't more pissed off about this. Like, this is, at this point, it is us against them, and no one can see that, you know, because they've managed to make half the country feel like they are them, and the other half feel like they are them, you know.
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean, look at how much like Amazon paid in taxes. Yeah. And look at their profit margin, and then look at how much Bezos is making. Look how much Bezos just gave to his wife.
Right.
You know, like who needs that much money? You know, like when Notre Dame caught on fire, and they had raised it was almost $1 billion in like a day, and it's like, wait, Puerto Rico didn't have power for over a year,
right?
Like, wait, well, where the fuck were you guys when that was going on? Still not getting
better, you know. You know, I love the memes that were coming out when after that Notre Dame thing. You know, they were like, y'all are donated $7.7 million in 24 hours or whatever. Like the Catholic Church has gone broke. You know? Yeah, it's just go on.
Yeah, I mean, we're not even getting into like what they. I mean, yeah. The Catholic Church could have definitely, you know, I'm sure they're going to throw in a little bit of some, but it was just realizing.
But you
that
are right. And Puerto Rico is a tragedy. Puerto Rico is insulting that one of our territories can be experienced, and to this day, what they are from the thing, and then the leadership of our country, which Puerto Rico is part of, it just openly disdains them.
That's the thing, is people don't realize that, like, Puerto Ricans are Americans. You know how many Puerto Ricans there are in the military?
Oh, full of them.
Yeah.
Dude, you know.
I mean, I'd be willing to say if Puerto Rico, let's just say it was a state, per capita, they have the most.
Oh yeah.
Enlisted.
Well, not to mention they also have National Guard and Reserve units in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
You know, it's insulting to me. And the whole idea that we have concentration camps in the United States right now is insane.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
it's just,
we should have learned that from, the internment camps from World War II.
Exactly, man. And I don't understand. I get it. They came over, but I don't understand what legal right we have to hold. They're not citizens of this country. And other than crossing the border, they haven't broken a law in this country.
Yeah.
I don't know how we can still be detaining them, I guess that's the difference between detainees and prisoners. We got into that with Guantanamo too.
Yeah. Well, that's another whole issue.
Yeah, dude.
All the black site prisons that we have, and just guys that were just nab up up in the middle of the night and
this
ship
cargo
them off
container is owned by the United States, so you're on U.S. territory right now.
Yeah, and we're gonna do whatever we want. We're gonna waterboard you until you confess to this crime that you probably didn't do, but we got to find somebody.
Yeah, that's just the most. Oh God, I can't even imagine, dude.
Yeah,
I can't imagine. And it is ineffective. I mean, it's. I'm okay with this is probably not even something we should be getting into, but I'm okay with certain forms of enhanced interrogation, I guess, in quotes. But anything physical is not, like, if you want to keep a guy up for 4 days at a time, right after, at the end of that 4 days is not the time to interview him. You have to let him go to bed. Yeah. And then when he wakes up, well, that sucked. Now, how about you talk to us? We don't want to do that again. Any intelligence that you glean during the time of that action is not going to be really useful to you anyway.
Yeah, and it's insane that we've started wars over intel gathered that way, and it's like, if you're being interrogated and quote tortured, it's like, I'm gonna say anything to make it stop. At a certain point, like, you're gonna hit my breaking point, and I'm gonna sing like a canary, and anything that you want to hear, I'm just gonna. And
I think we should be, as a country, we should be held to a higher standard than that. I hear a lot of people say, well, they do worse than that to us. Yeah. Well, there's the difference.
Yeah. The thing is when we do it and they show, a teenager, a video of a U.S. soldier, pissing on a body, pissing on a dead body, or anything of that nature. It's like, well, that becomes, a recruiting tool that they're going to use. And it's happened over and over again, and it's one of those things. It's just like, are certain evils necessary? Yeah, I mean, like, sometimes you're gonna have to kick some ass, and there's gonna be people that you're not gonna get along with, and there's gonna, some people need to get killed.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure you're always doing, like, you got the best interests of the nation at mind.
Right.
But I don't know, man. I'm way too dumb to figure this thing out, and I just feel like I'm just a passenger on this ship, and wherever it's going, I'm waiting for any moment now. I'm waiting for that asteroid to just hit the reset button.
I mean,
we'll let the chimpanzees try again.
I am full of opinions, but that's all they are.
Yeah. Well, we can.
I can be proven wrong at any moment. It's happened many, many times in the past. So.
Yeah. Well, we can wrap this up. We're
All right,
actually
man.
past the 2 hour mark. So
Yeah.
is there any shout out you want to give? You know, you can plug
Yeah.
if someone wants to know more about Valhalla Dive Group, do you guys have a
Yeah,
website?
we have. So right at the moment, we do have a website. It's under construction. It's supposed to go back up any day now. We have our Facebook group.
Okay. Are you guys on Instagram or anything?
We just started Instagram.
Okay,
so
what's the
we
handle?
will be becoming active. Believe it's going to be the Valhalla Dive Group. One of our girls is starting it.
Okay.
But-
yeah, and we'll make sure to include links for that.
Yeah. So it's Valhalla Dive Group on Facebook, and it'll be valhalladivegroup.org once we get the website put back up again.
All right, Kevin, man. Thank you, man. It's been
Yeah, no
it's been a
problem.
pleasure having you on.
Yeah,
This has been
man.
fun.
It's been great.
Hope you had a good time.
Yeah.